And welcome back, my favorite community of action takers, to another episode of the IDKWTF I Was Doing podcast. I'm your host, David B., your accountability buddy and partner on this wild entrepreneurial journey. So, if you've ever found yourself stuck, unsure of what to do next, or if you felt like you're just fumbling through this process, you're in the right place. Our mission is to break down the stories of successful entrepreneurs so you can walk away with actionable insights to propel your own business forward. Today's episode is all about turning struggle into success because we are diving into the powerful lessons from Funnel Hacking Live 2024, where some of the brightest minds in entrepreneurship have gathered to share their biggest strategies for success. We are talking about everything from why procrastination is killing your potential to how tiny one on one challenges could be the key to unlocking your coaching business. And let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a job or a routine, doing something that you don't love just because it's safer? Or maybe you felt like you're chasing pleasure without any real fulfillment. We're also breaking down the art of crafting irresistible offers that get your audience to say yes, even when you don't have a huge following or a well known brand. All of that and so much more. So, whether you're just starting out or you've hit a plateau, today's episode is packed with actionable strategies from the experts that will help you reach your next level. So, stick around because by the end of this episode, you're going to walk away with some great insights and you're going to know a lot more about Russell Brunson, Clickfunnels, and the funnel hacking community as a whole. So, we're going to thank our sponsor and then we're going to dive right in.
How can a single book be worth $1.5 million? In a hidden corner of the world, a collection of unparalleled wisdom has been discovered. This book, and the story behind it, has the power to revolutionize your approach to success. Written nearly a century ago and lost to time, this book contains the foundational principles that have shaped the lives of the most successful people in history. Only a select few have had the chance to see it, but now you can too. This isn't just a book, it's a priceless masterpiece that holds the key to unlocking your potential. Are you curious? Then go to idkwtfpodcast.com/book or click the link in the show notes below to see the full story and find out why this book is considered a priceless treasure as well as how it can influence your life forever. Again, check it out at idkwtfpodcast.com/book.
So this was day 2 of Funnel Hacking Live, and this one was really interesting because it had a lot of really high highs, but it had a lot of really low lows. So I'm going to dive into that and kind of cover what they talked about in their talks and kind of my thoughts on it. And then at the end, I'm going to kind of wrap up and give you a whole overview of my thoughts of the whole event so far. So yesterday it felt like it was a good start. It was a little technical. Today was actually the strategies that they went into were so much more usable for the everyday entrepreneur, and it wasn't just ClickFunnels specific. So I actually think they overall did a really good job. But Russell kind of started out talking about, the art of having a fulfilled life. Yeah, there was one framework that he shared that really jumped out to me. He said there's really 4 things that we can do in life, you know, in whether it's regards to anything. So there's things you can do. You can do what you love. You can do things that you're good at. You can do what the world needs, and you can do what you can be paid for. So if you're finding that you're doing stuff that's kind of in the intersection of what you love and what you're good at, that's something that's a passion. If you're doing something that's what you're good at and it's what the world needs, that ends up being kind of a mission. If you're doing what the world needs and what you can be paid for, that ends up being a profession. And if you're doing what you can be paid for and it happens to be something you love, that ends up being something even bigger than more like a vocation. Now, the goal that we all really want to find is something that is all 4 of those things, that has an overlap of all of them, and that's your ikigai, your reason for being, the true path to total fulfillment. And I thought that was really good, and that's what us as entrepreneurs wanna do anyway, And so ClickFunnels is kind of a tool to help us do that and get paid for it, because so much of us love so many things, but we can't make any money doing it. But in 2024, the truth is you can kind of make money doing anything. And having a tool to make that money is really important. He shared that profession and then he really says, the only way that you can make money doing things that you love is you have to create an offer. And this is what really Russell Brunson is the best at. So if you're not creating offers, you can't share your passion with the world. And so after that, Russell shared a story about how he bought his first course for $1,000, which was a little more expensive than he could afford at the time. But doing so changed his life. And honestly, I have a really similar story. The first thing I actually invested in was a $6,000 course by someone I had been following for years, and or a program anyway. And literally the trajectory of my life changed. Then Russell shared a story about how, after he was kind of making money in his business, he ended up buying his first ticket to a mastermind group, like buying into an actual program. And it was $25,000, which was an insane amount of money at the time. And he had to kind of borrow that money for it. But implementing the things he learned at that mastermind is really why we have ClickFunnels as it is today, because he stretched further than he possibly could. And that's a really neat story. I haven't spent that much money on a course, program, or group yet, but maybe one day in the future. So he goes on to say that really in any marketplace, the person who makes the most offers will always win. And that's something we talked about yesterday, is that you have to iterate a lot of times and you have to fail a lot of times so that you can get the right product. And this goes into that even a little bit further. So again, the person in any marketplace, in any business, any industry who makes the most offers will always win. So then he goes on to share, how to make the perfect offer. And the biggest thing that we as entrepreneurs have to remember, we're not actually making an offer. We're not selling a product. What we're doing is we're selling a result. So many people, and if you're listening to this, I'm going to assume you're an entrepreneur of some sort. If you're solving someone's problem, so many people have tried multiple things before. Coming to you, they have already tried other stuff. So there's two frameworks that you can present your offer as. One is that you can try and improve the previous result that they've gotten, which is called an improvement offer, or you can reframe it as a completely new opportunity, which is a new opportunity offer. Russell says the best type of offer to present to people is the opportunity, because we don't really want to spend money on something, especially if we've tried something and failed at it before. We don't want something that's going to just be marginally better. We want something that's way better. The example he says is, keto sucks. You've tried to lose weight before. You tried to use keto. Don't use keto. Let's try this new thing because this one's going to be better. I think the weight loss industry is particularly good at continually doing that. Then he also says the other thing with a good offer is you have to understand pricing. You can either decrease the price of something or you can increase the value of something. So you can either be the lowest priced product on the block or you can offer more value than anyone else. Tony Robbins always says the person who creates the most value in the marketplace will always win. And this is what Russell follows up with too. And I'm looking through my notes. I don't remember if this is the point where I found this takeaway. One of the hugest takeaways I got from this event is showing how a funnel is it's exactly the opposite of something like Amazon, Temu, or Wish. Those are sites designed to sell you the cheapest stuff. They've got as many products as they can. They want you scrolling and shopping for as long as possible. A funnel is really designed, and I think he talks about this somewhere else, but it's really designed to give the best customer experience to your potential clients or your target market in the most effective way, and then provide them with the most value that you can possibly give them. And I really think we're going to end up with these two business models going forward, and kind of everything else is going to collapse and disappear. But I'll ramble on that probably here in another little bit. He also went in to say that he analyzed, using ClickFunnels, the hundreds of thousands of different funnels and offers that have gone through his platform. He went and analyzed which ones do the best and like what makes them the best offer. And he says the number one ability to have a good funnel, a good business model, a good being able to sell a product that you actually care about or a service isn't the actual product. It's not the features. It's not the benefits. It's not the price. It's actually the ability of the presenter to convey their story to the audience. The better they can share their story, the more conversions into sales that they make. And that is ubiquitous across all of the funnels that have come through his platform. So the goal of any funnel, the goal of any customer flow, the goal of any process is to have the ability to deliver your sales presentation. Then he also went out and he shared a really cool feature that ClickFunnels just introduced that's just included in the $97 a month thing, which I think might be the thing that sold it to me, that makes me buy it. Because like I told you in the last episode, I have never used ClickFunnels. I haven't even done their free trial, honestly. And I've in my business, I feel that it makes more sense. You can do things less than $100 a month putting your business together. And I think $100 a month is kind of a lot for someone who's just starting out who doesn't have a product. So I've been really resistant to all-in-one platforms this whole time. But they created an AI model where you just clickety clack on a keyboard and say, "Hey, build me a funnel in this manner that accomplishes this goal." And it seems to just do it for you. So again, I don't know all the workings of it, but it's like they just created an AI to run the software for you, and that seems pretty wild. So I think it is something I'm going to be checking out, but I'll keep you updated. Now, the next speaker that came out was named Richmond Din, and he probably gave my favorite talk maybe of the whole event. At the point that I'm recording this, I actually have gotten through all the days, and his talk mixed with someone else's talk has given me the biggest takeaway. And what he introduced was something called launching a tiny challenge. And he says it's basically like a traditional challenge or a traditional webinar, but it's one-on-one. And he says, if you're teaching one to many, as a receiver of that information, one to many presentations are pretty low value. We don't really appreciate or value them that much, even if we'd pay for them. But a one on one presentation is a lot more intimate, it's a lot more personable, and it is a lot more valuable. And so he makes a few really good points where one of the biggest reasons to do a one-on-one presentation as opposed to a one-on-many is there's no one is doing it. You know, you can go into a Facebook group and say, "Hey, I'm looking for one person to do this 3-day challenge with. Would anyone want to take advantage of that?" And a lot of people are going to say yes, which is much different than saying, "Hey, I'm doing this free webinar. Would you guys like to show up?" So I think the acceptance rates is going to be a lot higher. No one else is really doing it. A group event requires a lot of marketing, a launch day, tiny challenges you can start anytime with basically no prep. You're going to get 100% show up rate. And the goal, right, is you want to get 100 presentations. And all of us that have been in the entrepreneur world, we know that to get 100 people to say yes to something, you have to present it. You have to show it to 1,000 people. And if you want 10 people to buy, you have to get 100 people to show up. If you're doing a one-to-one challenge, you're going to get you don't have to show it to 1,000 people. You just show it to 100 people. You just have to do it 100 times. So it's a interesting dynamic, but I think it's really, really powerful. And the biggest thing is that no one is doing it yet. I feel like it's going to be all over the place here soon. Now, the biggest thing with the one-to-one challenge is at the end of the challenge, again, you do make an offer. You do ask everyone. You say, "Hey, do you want to buy this thing now that you've gotten this valuable information?" But it's not as important whether they buy or not buy. The key is if they say no, that they don't want to buy, then you're going to ask them like, "Hey, I know that you said no, and again, no pressure, but for my own benefit, what would actually make you say yes?" And then they can give you immediate feedback and you can iterate and do it again immediately with the next person. So you get those iterations so much faster because you're doing more presentations. And I think that's what's actually the most powerful part of all of this, because we need to iterate quicker and quicker and quicker to make a better and better product. So that was a really cool thing, is the tiny challenge. Then Allison J. Prince came out. She talked about how you can actually sell products on Clickfunnels, and this is something I absolutely didn't know. I really thought it was just for digital products. I literally did not know you could sell physical items through Clickfunnels. I just assumed you had to use Shopify or another one of those kind of platforms. So this was neat, and so her whole talk was like, "You have to be selling a physical product. If you're not selling a physical product, you are literally throwing money away." And she said a lot of people think that they don't sell physical products because you think you need like something brand new and amazing and innovated. They think the market's too saturated or the margins are too low. And then she makes the claim like you don't have to do anything too crazy or amazing. You need to sell what people are buying. And so she talks about Shark Tank and these guys like create these crazy massive things. Like she talked about one dude who made this amazingly cool boogie board, and then it was $25,000 to even make a prototype on it, and then they shot him down on Shark Tank. And so the investment that you have to make to create a new novel unique product is insane. So she's like, why don't you just sell something like pillowcases? How many pillowcases do people own? A ridiculous amount are in anybody's household at any given time. How many boogie boards are in how many people's houses, you know? So if you can sell something that everyone uses and likes, you're going to win, and it's gonna be so much easier. So and then she makes the example like Stanley cups, you know, they didn't invent anything new. They just sold a cup with a straw on it, and it quadrupled their business. Liquid death is water in a can, and it's about to be $1 billion industry. So she says, "What could you start selling today that could make you money?" And she says she has examples like kits books, toilet paper rolls, dryer lint, old Christmas gifts, rubber bands. These are all things that are very sellable, but the key is that nobody buys stuff. If you're out looking, you're never going to buy stuff. And yet, people have a lot of stuff. So, what are they buying? What is it people actually want to spend their money on? And it again goes back to solutions. If you are going to sell something, it has to be a solution for somebody. And the biggest thing that she says, the number one takeaway is that if you want to increase your wealth, you have to become obsessed with other people's problems, and then you have to become obsessed with solving those problems, and then you have to talk about it a lot. And I think that was a beautiful takeaway. Tim Shields was the next speaker up, and he talked about Instagram, which was really good. Like, how do you grow a social media following? I didn't write it down, but he's got millions of followers on Instagram. And what he does is he helps people take better photography, better pictures. One thing he did to start out to get more engagement and get more viewers coming in is he would do like TikTok or Instagram lives. So as you're scrolling through the lives, he did it in a unique way because he'd be delivering kind of a webinar presentation, but he'd be somewhere ridiculously beautiful. So in the background, he'd be at like the Grand Canyon or in a national park, or he was done it like on a glacier. So when people are scrolling, they're like, "Whoa, that looks way different than dude in his living room," and it really worked for him. Another big thing that he said, you know, because he started out trying it just like all of us do. He was trying giveaways, he tried traditional content, nothing was working, and he felt like a loser. And my biggest takeaway from him is that sometimes feeling like a loser is one of the best things that can happen to you. If you feel like an idiot, if you feel like you suck, if you feel like, God, I'm so frustrated with how hard this is, sometimes that is the thing you need to motivate you into taking more action to just get it solved, to figure it out, and to like take the action that you need to take in order to get these things that you need to get. Sometimes we just get so complicit and complacent in our life that really feeling like a loser sometimes is magical. So, some of the tips that he put out is again on all of your video shorts. Video shorts are again the future. If you're not doing video shorts, you don't have a business. You have to do them in 2024. And I personally don't think there's any way around it. But the thing is, now you actually have to make them good. In 2019, they could be whatever. In 2024, you actually really have to be good at it. And that means you need a framework. It was nice to see because he reiterated the framework that we all use. Dean teaches it. It's how I always recommend to my clients to structure their talks. It's how everyone structures everything. It's a hook, it's a story, and it's a close. So basically, it's hook. Hey, Do you wanna solve this problem? Story, you know what? I had the same problem and I solved it. Actually, here are the 3 steps on how I solved it. By the way, come follow me. And it started out slow but it builds up momentum over time. A few other tips he put out is, hey, use a teleprompter. He says use Descript for video editing, which is what I also use. A neat one he said was you can use jump cut endings, which means you actually cut off one of the last words or you cut the video on a word at the end. So it seems kind of like a mistake. For some reason, that gets people to rewatch the video, which helps it go more viral. And then he also says you can every once in a while do a Scooby Doo ending, which is drop a word in the comments below, and then I'll send you this thing. And he varies it up so it's not the same every single time. Oh, the other big thing that I need to start doing is using more arrows and lines in post editing. You can add more stuff into it. I feel like I should be doing it. I just haven't. Again, for me, probably much like you guys, I hate doing social media videos, but they are absolutely critical. Those were the biggest thing from his. Oh, and then he said you can use a program when you do the Scooby Doo ending and have them comment a word in the comment section. You can actually use a third-party program called MiniChat, which will automatically send people a resource, which is kind of cool. The other big thing he said is that when you make videos and when you get a good one that kind of takes off, then you actually want to pay to promote those ones. You don't pay to promote stuff unless it's already doing well and it's getting you traffic into your business. So the speaker up next was Ruth, and I'm looking through my notes here. She did a really great presentation. Some takeaways is you have to create a movement in your community. You have to stop making it about the thing and you have to make it about the why. And then she also went in and reiterated that we do have to have short form video today. But the biggest thing when we're doing our short form video is we have to again remember to stop being so detail oriented and information dumping. We have to focus more on the why and the mission. And this is what our community is going to gravitate towards more. But she said, like, again, it was really hard to do the reels, but she made a choice to make a reel every single day. And then she got a lot more feedback back with her business basically immediately, which meant she got to iterate her content faster and more effectively. She did talk a lot about really how you package the marketing for your presentation is so, so important. And what one big thing she did talk about that I remember is that she was a weight loss coach and she got so excited about teaching people how to lose weight and like the details of it, but she would talk about it and people weren't really that interested. So she iterated a bunch of different times with the messaging. Her program never changed whatsoever. All that changed was how she shared it and share what she does to people, which again made her a 2 comma club winner multiple times over, which means she made $1 million in her business or with a funnel. And the messaging, the social media aspect is all about getting people to know, like, and trust you. Another big thing that jumped out though, she says, if you're too likable, people won't trust you. If you're too authoritarian, people won't believe they can attain it. Like if you're too perfect, people are going to put you up on a pedestal. So you have to be able to really talk to people at the level that they're at and convey that you have a solution that will actually work for them. You don't need to info dump the details about the solution until you can get them on board with the how and the why and the know, like, and trust. So the speaker up next was Trey Llewellyn, and he is the low. Apparently, he's pretty big in Clickfunnels. I was looking at some other marketing, and they seem to always give free stuff away. That he's the person in charge of. He was my least favorite speaker by far. It really felt like he just came out. He was unprepared. He was just kind of rambling. He would go off topic. He wasn't ready. I don't know if he was nervous because it was a a bigger event than he's used to. Again, I don't know anything about Clickfunnels or their community, who their speakers normally are, but he just and I understand that people are different and people appeal differently to different audiences. But if you're on a stage with people like Russell Brunson, I feel like you need to have a really dialed in, really practiced approach and not just show up doing things off the cuff. And I was pretty disappointed in his presentation. But what he did was, again, he talked about e-commerce products and what you should be able to sell. The biggest things he did, the 6 P's of a perfect product. And basically, you want them to be small in size. You want them to be very light so it's easy to ship. You want them to be permanent so it won't break in shipping. You want to prevent from having sizes because every SKU in your business increases the complexity of your business. And 1, 2, and I probably didn't write down the other ones because I was so not engaged with his presentation. And basically, he just said sell cheap stuff to as many people as you can. The big thing too is, but the thing is, you have to have a big list that you can sell things to if you're gonna sell the kind of products that he talked about. And he never talked about that at all. He didn't solve that solution. And then again, I don't know if I was so irritated with Trey that when Brandon Burchard came out, I just was hyper analyzing the issues with him too. Brandon Burchard was the final keynote speaker of the day, very famous. The problem with Brandon, he also does typically rub me the wrong way because he's just so full of himself. And this was an event where he again came out, he wasn't prepared. He mostly just talked about how rich he was and how successful he was and how he'd done things before anybody else had ever done them. And then he just parroted what a lot of the other speakers said in a less convincing way. And I was very disappointed in his too. Let me see if there's something he did point out. The one story that Brandon did say that I did like is that we all do have an impossible story. It's crazy. It's impossible the world that we live in. It's impossible that you're here watching me right now. It's so impossible that Russell with his potato gun would build the largest software company in the world. And it just feels impossible, and yet all of these things exist. So you can absolutely dream about anything that you want, and you can accomplish more than you could ever expect. But again, the problem with him is that he was not prepared. He was just riffing off some stories that he's riffed off a million times, and then he didn't do it well. One thing I did notice, because I've seen day 3 and day 4 already, is that the audience did seem particularly difficult. The people who were live in the audience were very high earners. They probably had to spend a lot of money to have those seats. And I noticed that a lot of the audience had a difficult time getting them to interact. And that might be why maybe they were kind of thrown off or off their game and they were like more nervous than they should be. But if Brandon Bouchard thinks he's the next Tony Robbins, he has to be able to not let stuff like that agitate him. And he needs to be better at cranking out his core stories if he's not going to prepare. But again, I think it's so disrespectful for them to show up on stage at one of Russell's big events and just not treat it like a TED Talk. So I think they did go over a few other things that day. Russell Brunson came out and went through some of his actual sales funnels, which was really cool that I didn't totally understand because it was a bunch of tech stuff that I have never seen before. The thing Russell ended with, which was nice, is that Russell gave his prophecy. So where he sees kind of the next couple years going with the entrepreneurial world. And he really thinks that paid challenges are the absolute best offer for maybe the next 2 years or so. Because again, free webinars and free events are really, really difficult to sell right now. And they're from a marketing perspective, if you're doing paid ads, something heard him complain about before too, is that they're getting really expensive. Facebook is charging way more than they ever have. And so it's kind of, unless we do something different, it's hard to reach people. So if you can do a paid ad where they're paying on the front end, you can then buy more ads and people are more likely to stay there and be your qualified buyers. And then he talks some smack about Mark Zuckerberg, he in affiliate partnerships, and he says, "One thing it's crazy that we forget about is, like, how affiliate partnerships built all of our businesses." You know, he says, "Mark Zuckerberg is kind of an affiliate partner, but he's the worst one. He just takes your money. He doesn't tell you how many people he's gonna show your product to, and he doesn't really care that much. If you can partner with other people in affiliate sales, you're gonna do a much better job than just paid ads." And so he says that's a good way to go. So how do you find your dream 100 and see how you can partner with them and like share share lists and share promotion. So that was it for day 2. I feel like it started out amazing. I learned a bunch. It was really cool and then it bombed there at the end by 2 speakers who were just very unfulfilling, and I am really excited for the rest of it. I'm gonna do the breakdowns on day 3 and day 4. I'll get those uploaded as soon as I can, and yeah, but overall, man, it's a really neat event. ClickFunnels seems very interesting. I'm heavily considering investing in it just to try it for a little bit, but I'll let you guys know what happens. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you at least got a few points if you couldn't make it to the whole event. I hope my recap is a breath of fresh air because 12 hours of content is really, really hard to sit and watch. We're busy people, and so I'm happy to be at least a resource and a little helpful for you. Thanks again. I'll see you soon and hit play on that next one if it's uploaded. Take care, guys.